Well, hello there, everybody. A little bit of Led Zeppelin, Stairway to Heaven. You can't go wrong on that. That's all I got to say, folks. That is just gotta live throughout eternity. I mean, gotta say, hope you all like it as well. I'm sure you know it. Welcome, everybody. It is Thursday today. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. You're looking beautiful, all of you. Like Ann and Deborah and Lori, Lost in Space, Doug, Mike, and Mad Cow. And let's do this now. I mean, yeah, y'all are beautiful, and thank you for being a part of this. So, speaking favor over of us all, favor abounding, never ending, goes before you, walks beside you, got your back. Cool. All right. So, nothing missing, nothing broken as well. So, anyway, what's happening? Hey, Jackie, good to see you, Lady Ellie. Elderberry, right down the road. Good to see you, my friend. So, what's happening? How y'all doing? Hope you're thriving, having fun. Hey, you bought the ticket. Ride it out for all it's worth. That's what I say. So, what's going on? Chloe, thank you, darling. The answer to your question would be purple. That's the color. Hey, Gogo, good to see you. All the way from Croatia. Jacqueline, good to see you. So good to have you. Manifesting Annie, what's up? I love that name. Remember the song Avenging Angie? Yeah, good song, by the way. Doo, doo, doo. Hey, Robert V, what's up? Good to see you. Jules, hello. Mary Wins, much love, darling. Nina, good to see you. So, regular crowd passes in. We all sit around and start singing again. We enjoy the sight of each other we see, and to that we celebrate unto thee. Hey, rhyme it if you like it, right? So, had a dream of dragons. Yeah, which was interesting. And it wasn't just a dragon, there was two, what I would call baby dragons. Interesting. I love dreams. Y'all like dreams? Yeah. Cold here in the northern part of the world. Guess it's supposed to be. I saw in Quesara in San Diego, uh, cold down there. I can only imagine a cold walk on the beach there. Morgan, good to see you. Thank you, Bonnie. Hello. Mark, good to see you, brother. I know it's warm where you are at. Man, is that chat room going? Have to take my Evelyn Wood speed reading class again. God, it's good to see you, darling. So, anyway, um, so interesting. So I want to get right into this. This is a topic that I think is more real than any of us may realize. I think we all have gotten that fractal, that fragment. I know I have. I read comments in yesterday on yesterday's show. Many of you have had the same encounter. I like the one that was at the psychic shop. And again, we have seen things that don't add up. Let's see, for instance, I know I covered this, and we're probably going to get back into it. We're going to get into his other book. This is the book by David Jacobs, PhD. Listen, he earned it, so we should respect him for it, right? So, Walking Among Us, the alien plan to control humanity. I think they already are. I mean, even if you believe the stories, the myths, the legends, of different belief systems, and, the one that everyone makes reference to is we really bought this story of Adam and Eve. And it's a fascinating story because it's a great allegory, metaphoric. But there really was no one ever named Adam, no one ever named Eve. If there was, then we're in a a freaking uh weird reality. But even within every myth, legend, story, there are grains of truth. And what is one grain of truth worth? Depends on exactly what that one grain does, right? Interesting question, as they say. Hey, Jeanette, good to see you, darling. Hello. Um, Chris, hello. Anyway, so, but if we go back into this whole garden idea, it shows that we were immersed into something that was already here. Reptilians. I mean, you can draw many different metaphors and allegories from the serpent. But if you take the book and the story, the serpent was walking upright, making it bipedal. And apparently, if you read the story, the animals, they hung out every day, smoked the pipe, chewed the weed. And, they apparently had a pretty groovy time. And apparently, the serpent was the cunningest of them all. It's odd that you have to use the word cunning again, describing a species. I mean, I could derive from that they were apparently more intelligent than the monkeys, the simians, the apes, us. We are the talking monkeys, um, which would then make the angels and demons the talking snakes or reptiles. Just a matter of perspective. But in any case, so you got this scenario that was already here. And then this ship comes down and it has a holodeck. It's able to transform the ecosystem in a defined local area. They can completely manipulate it, alter it, be whatever they want it to be. And it's a ship. That's how it happened. It was artificial to begin with, and it was artificial when it left. And if you don't believe me, then read the stories. How does an angel sit there with a laser and, makes this barrier? Anyway, so here it is. The reptilians, I don't know. Maybe the camels, maybe Bigfoot. I don't know. But I'm sure that they had to see this thing come down and go, huh, looks like we got visitors. And the next thing they know, that whoever these beings were, they had their genetic lab and they started harvesting the animals, collecting the DNA. And apparently they focused on two specific species, reptilians, and simians. And then somehow or another in this genetic lab, they produced two clones. We call them us, humans. And, then there was this cause and effect that happened that apparently they weren't ready for, because these animated beings somehow obtained sentience, awareness, which mimicked the ones that had created them. That scared the mimics, going, oh crap, what do we do here? We really fucked up on this one. Oh shit, man. We can't let anyone know about it. I mean, if they find out upstairs that we fucked this up like this, they're going to have our heads. I think that's probably what the conversation was. And so this thing got out of control. And what they didn't realize that was in their lab, and as they were screwing around with all the genetics, playing God, because that's what they call themselves, God, Hey, Skies Above, good to see you. Hey, JD. Um, so when they formed these things and they suddenly became aware, they were mimicking them, and one of the things that they apparently excelled over those that were creating this crap is that they like to have sex. Yeah, these humans. They had an insatiable appetite for sex. And it wasn't about procreation, it was sex. They'd have sex with anything and everyone. And that presented the problem. And here we find ourselves today in the midst of something that is probably a hell of a lot older than what we think. Hey, Heather, good to see you. And Ruby, hello, good to see you as well. So, just saying, that's just what I see. Because you look at today, the world leaders, Klaus Schwab is one. I mean, that's one wackadoodle. I mean, that guy, the elevator that goes to the penthouse, is he occupied by someone other than himself? I mean, the dude's bat crap crazy, but he's not alone. Now, you have to ask yourself, do those swab types, I mean, look in the United States. If you look into Congress and you see the crap that they lie, they deceive, they think that they're somehow better, they're elitists. I mean, the whole thing. Are they human? I would say that I doubt many of them have a soul. They don't care. Do you really think they believe in a God? Seriously? Oh, they'll stand up there. It's like that broad down in Georgia, stands up in the pulpits and lies. Just lies. But it's everywhere. We have a president that all he does is lie. And then the liars go over and accuse the other people of lying. So now they're lying. So now everybody's lying. That's the craft that we live in today. Is that human? I mean, how would we determine if a person has a soul or not? What litmus test could we create that would verify that every human actually possesses a soul? I wonder if there's something already out. I mean, if I can think it, somebody else has thought about it. It's not like any of us have an original thought here. You know where I found out that little secret? It was in the book of Ecclesiastics. How many of you ever read the book of Ecclesiastics? Anyway, it was the wise sayings of Solomon. If he existed, well, someone wrote them. Anyway, he said, there's nothing new under the sun that has not been known to man. Nothing. And that which was shall yet be again. I mean, I was supposed to have been the smartest dude ever. So, nothing new under the sun. Okay. So, that implies that none of us have an original thought. Imagine that. So, getting back to this litmus test of finding out if a person has a soul. Imagine you're dating. What would you put in your dating profile? You have to have a soul because it's very obvious. I have a book that deals with the soulless ones. And in the book, the premise and the contention was that there are more soulless human beings than those who have an actual soul. The evidence is that you look at the current affairs of mankind and you got to shake your head going, Now, we make up with that because in our religions and our philosophy, it always tells us why there's always an excuse for that behavior. Could be just simply that we're, animals. were vicious. That's what humans are. And they would find sport of something that actually would have a soul, inasmuch that apparently this soul thing is ambiguous. I mean, I studied the Bible for decades. And that first chapter to that second chapter of the first book going, so Genesis 1:26, Genesis 2:7 and 9. Two different things going on here. This one was never given a soul, but yet apparently had the same command to dominate, procreate the world. But they had no soul. But this one got something else from this geneticist or whoever it is, and it said it gave us a living soul. Well, that sets the foundation right there that we've got two different, genesis of the tree, of the branch. In some Middle Eastern beliefs, the female has no soul. She was never gifted that. That's got all sorts of I laugh at that because I'm going, really? Really? But, there you go. So it sets the foundation for the whole point that being human is one thing, but being human with a soul is another thing. And so we have the perfect setup. The play is ready to begin. The curtains part, and we begin to realize that there are two sentient species here. Now, the thing about us, they couldn't get it out of us. We like sex, and everything we do is about sex. Everything. Even religion. I saw more courtesing taking place in churches than I ever saw in any nightclub. And there was a lot of sex going on in nightclubs. I know, I was a part of that. But I got to tell you, you had, the music minister, plucking the strings of the lead folk guitarist, and then you find that this associated pastor was having, and you're going, really? But we like sex. We dig it. And that presented a problem. They've done everything they could to tell us not to have sex. Made it taboo, made it, screwed up. I mean, I still contend most humans don't have any idea what sex really is. Some would say, are you serious? Think about it. What is the purpose of sex? Why do you have sex? You take the procreation scene out of it, remove that. So why do we have sex? I mean, it serves no function. And if you look at the scenario, really humans shouldn't have sex at all. Except in those cases where it was needed to replace the dead humans so you can replace them with another live human. Just asking the questions. Chris says sex is a part of life. But who says that, Chris? Why is that? And I'm not a proponent on the other side. I'm just simply saying the fact that we as a species, we drive on that. Because if you look at the animal kingdom in general, you don't see that the animal kingdom engaging in random sex. When they engage in such things, it's for the simple reproducing themselves, which would then make your children mimics of you. So this problem of mimics is everywhere. It goes way back. And so can a person, a human with a soul, have intercourse and produce another human who doesn't have a soul. And the one that they're mating with is soulless to begin with. Does the offspring get a portion of a soul? I mean, how does that work? Or is it like in the animal kingdom, you may have a purebred that only produces purebreds, but then they get that random thing in the genetic code and they'll produce a spotted one. I don't know. I see these are questions that people don't talk about. And they're important. Mimics. I mean, you have to look at the elite. I've known some people that went up, became, representatives in the halls of Congress, and a couple of them didn't change, but there were a couple that did. Something changed about them. So, is this just natural? I mean, do they have the ability in controlling the bloodlines as well? Because the bloodlines, in essence, unless you segregate them out, would be like most bloodlines, which are now compromised. Just something to think about, folks. How do you sell a soul? Bonnie asks. That's a good question. But if you had the opportunity and I don't know, your personality was more inclined to this, would you sell your business partner, your best friend, your spouse out for a dollar amount? Don't take this high and mighty righteous role like, oh, I'd never do that. I don't know, y'all. I mean, but it happens. Yours truly was at a restaurant in Atlanta, the Blue Water, and I had that opportunity. I was sitting at a dinner with four of the executives of this publicly traded company, and you find out where you really stand on things. I mean, if someone was to offer you millions of dollars in stock and then add stock options on top of that with a very sweet salary expense account. What do you do? I've been called a fool many times because I got up and said, no. And I was in a position where that would have changed my life. It would have. So, how do you sell your soul? Would that be called selling my soul out? I think so. I mean, unless a bond, the word of if your word is not your bond. I did a video years and years ago here called Do the Spirits Trust You? Can they trust you? A lot of people say, well, I don't have any interaction with spirits and whatever. The question is, maybe they don't trust you. I mean, you have to think about it. Chloe says, I had a boss once that said her birth son was a soul given to her. She then tried to offer him to me. Wow, you see? Yeah, a little bit of soul trading. Yeah. So anyway, let's get on with it. Hey, have y'all seen real quick as before we get into the book, and we're going to continue on this. We got to. So I think this is Claudio Nelsili. He has a YouTube channel called Nos Confundum. I really enjoyed this. I want to show you, and if you get a chance, get his book. I mean, he says it's the story told by the woman who was born in the lands between the ice walls. And what this is, a story is about a reptilian a human, yeah, several humans that anyway were shown this. And I actually have this, by the way. Let me pull this up because this is really cool. About the creative people. And again, check out his YouTube channel. Again, it is here. There you go. See it? Da, 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 da. Anyway, so this is, let me share the screen now with y'all. It's kind of cool. It's Worlds Beyond Worlds. And this person on this website, I think this is Lib Rising, talks about Claudio, the author of Terra Infindia, excuse me, the extraterrestrial worlds and their civilization. So apparently, our level of Earth, they say, is part of 178 worlds under a great or super dome, each with its own domes and biospheres. It says Helen and William come from the ancestral lands, which are some 8,000 kilometers south of our Antarctic seawall. They have come here to try to and educate and liberate humanity. So as you can see here, this is what we call the known world. And as we get into the further maps, you begin to see here's what we know. This is the Ancestral Republic. Here is the Deathland, Amen, Hell's Bridge, Talos, Antos, Island of Death, Mermaid Island. I love this. You have over here the Anubis Islands. You have Isis. Yeah, here's Atlantis, Lemuria, the Norse Ocean. Quite fascinating. Germania. This is on the first outer wall. Ancient lands of the Anak. So says that Helen and William know all about the outer lands and who's good and who's bad. There are two noble, aggressive, and anti-human races under the Great Dome. The first are the custodians, who possess advanced technology and go out and colonize and enslave as many worlds as they can. And the second are the Anunnaki, who are warlike and aggressive and also use advanced technology to colonize and enslave worlds. The two compete with one another and with all the worlds under the Great Dome. When either conquers a world, they build a wall of ice around it to keep the people in. And you can really begin to see, kind of reminds me a lot of the Norse, the nine realms, lands of Venus, lands of Draco, lands of Mars, the Anunnaki Islands, Sea of Horus. I mean, it's quite fascinating. And I won't get in much of this. I want to get in back into what we're doing, but it is so interesting. We'll pick this up probably next week as well and spend a little bit more time. I'm actually going to invite the gentleman on, and I think it would be a fascinating conversation. I really do. So anyway, let's continue on with this. Cool, isn't it, though? Who knows? I don't. So let's get back into the mimics. This is a fascinating read. And again, I got it on Kindle, and it is a readily available for everyone out there. So let's pick up from this. So as we continue, as Tim brings out, he says, who are the mysterious others? Beings who look like us and try to pass themselves off as human, but clearly aren't. These mimics of man apparently have been with us throughout history, but the question remains, who or what are they? And the one comment yesterday, it was fascinating. The gentleman was working at, was it an occult bookstore? and someone came in and his encounter wouldn't really make. All right. Shadows of a Parallel Humanity, Scott Quarles. Trying to find the right quote to kick off a chapter is often elusive. Not so in this case. What are we to make of the possibility, nay, the likelihood, that a shadow humanity lives among us? And we were just into this, and I got getting a hold of the author to get him on, but the shadow people. I thought about that immediately. It's a whole, there's not more than there's not just one. Yeah. Nearly perfect doppelgangers who walk our streets, travel our roads, and perhaps even sail our oceans without attracting the least bit of attention until something slips, much like a CGI creation, a synth-spatian in industry parlance, given given away by too perfect dental work, a much too perfect jawline, or eye color bordering on the unreal, like purple eyes. Paul Eluard, the French surrealist, is best remembered by his dictum that there are other worlds, but they are in this one. Without much effrontery, one could rework his saying into, there is another humanity, and it lurks among us. Those of us who grew up on the steady diet of science fiction that John Keel cautioned us about in the Mothman prophecies have no problem grasping the concept. Lost in Space introduced us to a protagonist, John Robinson, antimatter double in 1967's The Antimatter Man, an identical version of the hero, but cruel and calculating, supplanting the professor among his loved ones. Perhaps more to the point are the aliens in The Invaders, creatures able to produce perfect simulacra of human beings, but with a creepy internal structure, and of course, the trademark little finger. One of the most prominent moments in the series is when one such creation, portrayed by Susan Strasberg, decided to flee her alien originators to live in normal human existence. My life is valuable to me, she declares at one point. It doesn't get much more human than that. I have read stories, you can find out and see them for yourself, that those that have been in emergency rooms, trauma centers, that there have been some humans where their organs weren't where they're supposed to be. Spanish researcher Salvador Freixedo described a singular case which revolved around the love affair between a well-to-do Venezuelan woman named Lula and a thoroughly unusual man known only by George in his book, La Granja Humana. After a courtship laden with supernatural events, the couple married. And the strange man proved to be a wonderful husband, although he remained particularly adamant about not discussing his origins, relatives, or livelihood. Lula jokingly accused him of not being human, a charge which George nearly never really denied. For her peace of mind and that of her relatives, he said that he was the son of an Argentinian immigrant and the owner of a small printing shop that never seemed to transact any business. The couple's friends testified to George's astounding powers of precognition. He could accurately foretell the future to the extent of adjusting his behavior beforehand. When I read this the first time, I went, think about this. If you knew that you were going to have the potentiality of coming into a great sum of money, and you have been what they would call poverty stricken, well, the chances is that most likely is going to really mess you up. But if you knew that this was coming and you began to change your routine, began to choose different habits, etc., in preparing yourself, wow, moving to a certain place where you would be there at a certain time. He possessed superhuman physical prowess, doing things that would have proven lethal for a normal person. George would go to the beach on the worst possible days, challenging the waves and swimming miles away from the shore to the distress of lifeguards. Upon emerging from the water hours later, he would gallop at full speed up and down the length of the beach. To the amazement of onlookers, people driving along the road opposite the shore would stop their cars to witness the spectacular display of locomotion. I'd stop. Like, what? In spite of his prowess, George's health was far from good. He would complain to Lula that the atmosphere was killing him and would often lapse into a catatonic state, recovering enough to take a whiff from a small crystal vial that he always kept close at hand, recovering completely in seconds. Lula was warned many times to resist the temptation to look into the vial or to try to sniff it. On one occasion, she weakened while her husband was in one of his trances. Suddenly, she heard him say, "Lula, quit fooling around with it." The respiratory problems continued until George lapsed into a coma from which he did not emerge. A medical technician took a few x-rays of George's lung and was stunned to discover that the patient had no lungs whatsoever. The attending physician berated the technician for his carelessness and ordered that a new set of x-rays be produced. The result was the same. Not only did Luna's mysterious husband not have a pulmonary apparatus, he had some bizarre organs that were foreign to human anatomy. Before dying, George instructed a servant to buy several yards of bandages, stating that his corpse was to be swathed in bandages like a mummy, and silver coins were to be placed between his fingers. No autopsy, he said, was to be performed. Lula insisted on complying with her husband's wishes and allowed no autopsy. 8 years later, she informed Freixedo that the time limit imposed by law for exhuming a body would soon be up, and she would like him and other friends to be present at the exhumption. Whew! Freixedo traveled to Caracas only to learn that Lula's whereabouts were unknown to her mother and friends. This, he states, is where interaction between non-humans and humans acquires a negative cast. Lula had allegedly experienced terrible bad luck after following the orders given by a nocturnal apparition that claimed to be George's spirits. Apparently, she was told that she had a mission to perform, a message given to many contactees from Moses on down. As of 1988, Lula was still missing. In the year 2022, the knee-jerk reaction is to say that George was a human facsimile, cleverly cracked by a shrewd extraterrestrial presence, observing human behavior to ascertain whether Earth is ready for admission to some galactic polity or another. As the ETH cargo cult owns ufology, lock, stock, and spaceship. But it is more intriguing to suppose that he was a member of this crypto-humanity, which has been with us forever, perhaps even predating us, given names that vary from culture to culture, Sandhi, Jinn, etc. I've heard of other stories like this. Furthermore, at no point did Lula think that her unusual husband was in any way an ET. Those hoping for an Hispanic Mork from Orc will have to look elsewhere. She described him to Friexedo as an outstanding spouse and a loving father to her children from a first marriage. His psychic abilities, on the other hand, could be disturbing, particularly the gift of precognition. He used precognition as something quite ordinary. In many cases, he foresaw and predicted the future and adjusted his behavior accordingly, either refraining from embarking on a course of action or else engaging in activities that the future would keep him from doing. Woo! Richard continues to write, he said, who goes on to describe an incident on a Venezuelan highway while the couple drove along in their car. George suddenly became alarmed, telling Lulu that a truck some distance away was about to crash. To her astonishment, a passenger car merged too quickly from the right and hit the vehicle, causing it to overturn. The couple had no offspring, so prudent thoughts of the hybridization operation by unseen forces can be set aside. The relationship brings to mind legends of Sifs and Undines and their relation with humans, such as the story of the 19th century Persian bookseller who was able to locate any printed work for his clients, supposedly thanks to the assistance of an Undine with whom he had dealings. We can even go back to the early days of Rome, before the trappings of the Republic or Empire, when the king Numa Pompilius ruled the city, guided by the wise counsel of a nymph Egeria. Skeptics snort and dismiss all these entities as fragments of ancient imagination, the stuff of mythology and Renaissance statuary. George's breathtaking powers as a swimmer, the affection of the Undines towards humans, could lead one to believe that of all the non-humans, parahumans, crypto-humans, orders, these have the greatest affinity towards our own species. But the water elementals have a darker aspect in both Mesopotamian and European tradition, so a closer look at the changecues is in order. Tradition holds that the changecues are the spirits of either dead, unbaptized children or adult humans who died by drowning. A researcher who spent some time in Mexico spoke to a number of shy peasant girls who described how the creatures would have a good time playing in the water basins behind their homes. The elusive beings would cause the crockery left to soak in the basins to rattle. In their tradition, changecues were aquatic beings swimming in and out of the basin through its drain pipe. Another man explained that he had witnessed the apparition of his grandfather, a fisherman who had drowned at sea, now converted into one of these beings. He explained that when these creatures appear at night, the purpose is to drown humans and add them to their ranks. Apparitions by day are to impart wisdom. That's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. While some may find this folklore charming and have nothing to do with serious matters like ufology, there is a strong point of contact that should not be overlooked. The disappearance at sea of the Dominican celebrity Freddie Miller, who supposedly reappeared as a changed being. On May 5th, 1959, a boat sailed out of the Dominican Republic carrying 45-year-old television producer and director Freddie Miller and his passengers, 2 women and 2 children, and disappeared without a trace. 14 years later, on September 22nd, 1973, insurance salesman Virgilio Gomez was driving along the highway to service a new account when he saw a person waving him down by the roadside. According to Gomez, a man in a green outfit informed him that he was Freddie Miller, adding that he had supposedly drowned along with some other people, but that he had in fact been rescued by a modern device, a module known to people as a UFO. The witness remarked that his alien interlocutor had a disgusting grayish yellow skin tone that he found repulsive, spoke in a thick, deliberate voice, and was virtually hairless. The entity's body was covered by a form-fitting green coverall without zippers or pockets. Wow. In 1980, Luis Ramirez Reyes, one of Mexico's foremost UFO writers, had an experience of this nature during a stay at his friend's Dr. Paco Medina's country house in Mayotepec. Morales states he had originally accepted the invitation to the country retreat to investigate a tree on the property which had allegedly been zapped by a passing UFO for no apparent reason. Upon reaching the site, Ramirez was able to confirm the unusual damage to the tree. Since the hour was late, both he and his host turned in for the night. It was to prove one of the most frightening nights of the ufologist's life. As he drifted off to sleep, a heavy weight dropped beside him in the guest room's bed. Ramirez awoke with a start, thinking a snake may have dropped into the bed from the rafters. Frozen in place, he managed to extend a hand to feel what it was that had fallen onto the bed. To his complete astonishment, the bed was empty. The following day, he had the opportunity to speak with the children who performed housekeeping duties for his host, and was startled when they calmly told him that he had been visited by dwarves. They are like children, but we call them changecues here, he was informed. They play with us when we sweep and mop the house. Unwilling to be the victim of childish pranks, the investigators subjected the youngsters to a cross-examination in Dr. Menina's. They indicated that the entities would chase the children around whenever they arrived, allegedly out of fear of being harmed by adult humans. The entities remained invisible, but could be seen clearly by the young humans, who described them as being large-headed, bald, slender, and, for modesty's sake, clad in cloth shorts. Ramirez's host later informed him that both he and his family had been subjected to the nocturnal antics of these changecues more than once, to the extent that his wife refused to return to the country house. The creatures could be persuaded to desist by asking them to do so using kind words. This experience convinced Ramirez of the interdimensional origins of these and other similar entities, which, in spite of their playfulness, can be outright frightening. And in here, as you can see in the picture, the changecue were known to lead people astray, making the victims wander around the jungle for days. Later, it was believed that to escape the changecue, one must wear his shirt inside out. I'm going to make this stuff up. In the late 60s, two enigmatic individuals checked into the Miami hotel for an extended stay and befriended the chambermaid in the process. When the woman asked them where they came from, the man replied that they hailed from the north of the continent, stressing that they did not mean the lands north of the United States. The chambermaid and her husband detailed their experiences to the paranormal researcher Salvador Freixedo. One of the men was tall and blond, with a command of many languages and possessing telepathic abilities. His sidekick was short in stature, an Asian looking, and wore an orange colored uniform and gave the impression of being a retainer or bodyguard to the other man. According to the chambermaid, the blonde produced what appeared to be a ball and stuck it to the wall in defiance of gravity. He then asked the woman to address it, which she did, noticing swirling waves of light within the device, which would follow her in the air every time she made a move. The chambermaid and her husband witnessed the activities of the tall blonde and his companion on the beach during stormy weather, pointing what appeared to be cameras and other devices at the rough seas. While cleaning the room, the pair refused to leave their rooms while she cleaned. The chambermaid noticed a suitcase filled with billiard balls pulsating with light as if filled with electricity. The two strangers disappeared as suddenly as they had come. I hope you're enjoying this. I got enough to say that yes, so I love the stories. Manifestations of the damned. I'll be damned. Leafing through old B3s and almanacs can be an interesting experience, a journey into the mindset of the cartographers, scholars, and naturalists of a bygone age, populating unknown or unexplored parts of the world with drawings of headless beings who used a single giant foot as shelter against the rain or the sun, and animals-headed entities were no different from our drawings of the punitive extraterrestrial, although current academic thinking would probably declare something along the lines of a xenophobic vision of non-Europeans by Eurocentric thinkers. Okay. Xenophobes, are they? However, what we can say, when similar images appear in the Aztec codices, these ancient drawings in black and red ink that told the history of a civilization. Two of these compendiums, the Codex Florentis and the History of Tecalica, provide readers with the strange story of the omens which foretold the destruction of the Aztec Empire and the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors. The earliest of these events took place a full 10 years before the invasion and included a tsunami in the island sea of Texcoco and burning the temples by bolts from the blue, the first recorded apparition of La Llorona, the goddess Cayotoco, I know I misspelled that one, and other disasters, mispronounced. The last of these portents were truly hideous. The appearance of a two-headed crypto-humans dubbed, literally called the Split Men, in the vicinity of the Aztec capital. The history of Tlaxcala. Records of the event are thus. The eighth prodigy and signal for Mexico was that often would be seen two men joined in a single body, known to the natives as the Taikantzoli. Others would see bodies with two heads emerging from a single body, taken to Great Montezuma's black hole. Upon arrival, they would disappear, and all of these potentiants, and others would become invisible. They foretold the end of the natives, as the end was upon them, and the whole world would end and be consumed. The fact that these monsters already had a name indicates that they were known to the Aztecs, and that they would vanish into the waters of the lake, making them kind of the Mesoamerican Nixie or water spirit. One can visualize the sorcerers of the Aztec courts in their black chamber, concealing their astonishments and possibly fright at having these entities brought to them, only to inexplicably vanish. Wow. Under the tutelage of non-humans. Salvador Freixedo's The Lagrange Humana presents a high, strangest story of a young Mexican named Jose Luis and his bizarre friendship with a small child man known only as Fair due to his blonde hair. Jose Luis told Freixedo that he had first encountered his odd friend during a camping trip. A group of schoolboys had pitched their tents in the woods and encountered another boy their age, or so they thought, who led them to his own tent, a rectangular, shiny affair resembling an excursion bus. From that moment on, Fair became a fixture in the lives of Jose Luis and his friends, visiting them at school to fill their heads with tales of space travel in the future, and making a point to visit Jose at home on his birthday year after year. The strange little visitor earned the affection of Jose Luis's parents because of the good advice he always imparted to their son and companions. In a manner worthy of an Outer Limits episode, people noticed that Fair never seemed to age with each subsequent birthday visit, but said something either out of fear or due to be believed that the small figure may be suffering from a glandular disorder. But his enigmatic visitor's apparent lack of development was the least of Jose's problems. Fair's role in the Mexican's youngster's life seemed to be, suggest Freixedo, to groom him for future greatness. Whether this greatness had been achieved remains unclear, by clearing any and all obstacles. When Jose took a humble jolt in an important job, in an important corporation, a number of managers supposedly died of a variety of symptoms until Lewis found himself in a powerful position. All of this after consultation with Fair. Something similar occurred when Jose remarked that he was in love with a married woman. The fact is that one day, when Jose was feeling particularly depressed, Fair told him, "You're sad, and I know why." Jose tried to deny that he was particularly sad about anything, but Fair insisted, "You're in love with a young woman who can't return your affections because she's married. You're saddened to see that achieving your wishes seems impossible. Don't worry. Within a year, when I come back to visit you, you'll not only be married to the young lady, but you'll also have a child by her, no matter how impossible it may seem." And so it was. The method used to remove Jose's rival from the picture isn't mentioned. It also brings to mind the scene in John Boorman's Excalibur, in which the wizard Merlin assures Uther Practagon that he will have his way with the lovely Igraine and have a child, the future King Arthur. One wonders if Jose's offspring, now an adult, is also under the tutelage of Fair. Well, we'll pick up from here tomorrow. Actually, we may not, because tomorrow, get out of that, be celebrating 25,000 days on planet Earth. If you already had that 25,000, yeah, because the fact is, we're not going to have another 25,000. I don't think I'd want to. Another 10,000 days, well, that's nearly 30 years. So kind of the 25,000 is a big deal. So anyway, if you've entertained those that you did not know were angels, I believe it. We've got humans making decisions that are pushing us into war. There are changes now that are bringing down the United States. The United States is a failed nation. We will not be the same in 10 years. We're seeing this, we're living this. And my question becomes, is this really humans doing this? If it is, then it's something very bizarre because I don't believe they have a soul. I look at Joe Biden, and I know Joe Biden. I actually, didn't ride in the car that he did, but there was a time when I was traveling between DC and Delaware, and many times you ride the train. That's what you do. Amtrak has one of the special trains, that goes down there. But in any case, I look at that man today and I just say, does he have a soul? I mean, there is affecting the world. And I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on, something's not right here. And so I often wonder, are these non-human that are actually running the shows here? Are these non-humans running corporations? I mean, you look at Bill Gates, what has he turned into? A real freakazoid. And you look at all of them, Bezos, you look at Zuckerberg, you look at all of them. Are they human? Most likely they seem to be. Do they have a soul? I don't think any of us can ever know that. I don't think any of us can know that for sure in anyone. Because I believe the evidence, folks, and I may go over a little bit on this one because I think it's worthy of discussion. And please participate in the chat room. If you're hearing this later, comment. There seems to be two different species at play in the world. But it seems the ones that are corrupt, the ones that purposely deal in the deception to humanity, seem to be far more prevalent than not. Weird ideas of enslavement, weird ideas of completely anti-human agendas. War is anti-human. And in this country, we're so much idiots. The American citizens are idiots. We're funding a war that we're broke as ass. We're broke ass. I mean, we're so damn broke. And yet we're supposed to be funding a war that I don't give a damn about as an American. Hell, let them two nuke each other. I mean, get it over with. Apparently it costs too much money and it ain't worth it. If Ukraine's got a problem, hey, it ain't my problem as America. I'm not going to fund your pension. I damn sure ain't going to fund your government. If you can't fight your battles, too damn bad. Bye. And do you think this Zelensky's human? Really? Do you think that those gathered at Davos, do you think they're human? Do you think that they have a soul? Any one of them. Any one of them. The state I live in is so compromised by the soulless ones. They seem to thrive into positions of authority, bureaucratic issues. Why is that? I've seen it. I have shaken the hands of individuals that I knew were not human. They did not have what I would correlate a soul. As empaths, we know this. We can spot you out in a room. And they don't like us. When they discover us, they'll start doing anything they can to, in any way, sabotage your career, your personal life, your love life. And it shows me there is clearly a battle going on here. As above, so below as above. So they may be having their battles of their different species, but we got one here that the vast majority of humanity is not even aware of. They would consider this complete nonsense. They simply would not give it another thought. But yet they pray to an unknown God, asking them to win the lottery, to help me with a new car, help me with groceries, help me do that, help me get rid of a political opponent. Can you imagine the insanity? So you got one part of humans who are labeled by a name, praying to an unseen God to remove another part of humanity, and they're praying to their God to stay in power and to continue to subdue and enslave. The video games were made by non-humans. They are a trap. They are a form of direct mind control. It is. Those who engage in those type of things, their brains are different. They get inside. So my question is becoming, well, if you really get awake to this, aware, the evidence is everywhere. Something ain't right. And in my years of theology of Christianity and the study of God's holy word, I look back and I'm going, well, actually, I guess that's exactly what it's saying. Two opposing forces, each seeking to dominate a specific thing. Weird. Okay, everybody. Join me tomorrow. Thank you for staying with me. I went a little bit long, but this is important. We're going to continue, and I got a line of books already that it'll take us for the next couple of weeks and it's all predicated. It's only 25,000 days. My actual birthday is in June, but I think if we looked at our lives in days instead of years, it'd bring a different perspective. And tomorrow we'll talk more about that. I mean, you think about this. You've lived a different life every day. And most people aren't even aware of it. You change every day. Wild, isn't it? So 25,000 days, that's kind of cool. Again, and actually, if you get to the age of 68 and a half, then you've had your 25,000th birthday as well on planet Earth. So there we go. Yeah, you see, Aussie Sue. Yeah, 25,000th day. I think it's a big deal. Yeah. I heard it's supposed to be colder than a what. So anyway, all right, folks, thanks for staying with me. I know I went over, but hey, so that's what we do here. We just kind of freeform it all the way. You know what I mean? We're all naked philosophers and we just bear everything. That's how we are. That's how we roll. All right. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Right at you, Jackie. Thank you. Is 25,000 a prime number? That's a good question, Robert. Hadn't thought about that. Mr. C, thank you. Huh. The soul doesn't sleep. Yeah, in the spirit realm, spirits don't sleep. Apparently it's a gift that we get. Imagine that, huh? They never leave us alone. All right. Until we see each other tomorrow, much love to you. Thank you all. And, enjoy the